What's going on, everybody? Frank with Linemaker Sports here. Just want you guys to know that, can you go in the comment section? Let me know if you guys can hear me before we get started going here. So that way I know that we're good. All right? This video is going to be about, if you guys didn't catch the short that I threw out before, is they had me on the Dr. Phil show to talk about sports betting. All right? They brought me on there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take you guys kind of through the journey of how it all transpired and how we went through all of it step by step. All right, actually, what happened on the show, because from what you're going to see probably on TV, probably isn't going to be the exact same thing of what the story is that I tell you. All right, which is going to be kind of interesting. So, anyway, the show is supposed to air sometime tonight, I'm pretty sure. All right, but let's go ahead and let's get into it. I want to talk about exactly how it happened and how everything went through. All right, so first off, thanks everybody in the comment section saying congrats. Thanks, I appreciate it. Trust me, I appreciate all you guys that comment in there, that like the videos, that subscribe, everything. All right, trust me, I appreciate all of it, all the love. All right, so anyway, getting back to what I was saying though is, so one day we get an email, shoots across. It's from production in Paramount Studios. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, because I get emails every day from certain companies trying to do promos and stuff like that, or have me doing stuff. So I get an email from Paramount. I'm like, Paramount Studios. I'm like, oh, maybe this is like some scam or something. I don't know if this is really real. So what I do is obviously I kind of Google the person that sent the email, and it ends up being the producer for Dr. Phil show. So I'm like, okay, this seems pretty real. So they emailed out. They said, we want to have you on the show because Dr. Phil wants to do a segment on sports betting. You know, we love your channel. We want to have you on there so you can speak and you can talk. I was like, 100%. I'm fine. Well, let's do it. First they said, they were like, we'll fly you out. We'll put you up in a hotel. You know, we'll have all that for you right before the show, and then you'll come on. We'll record it and stuff like that. So this all transpires. I talked to the producer. I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's do it. You know, I kind of wanted to know what the show was going to be about. They said they were going to bring two gamblers on there that had gambling problems, and then they were going to bring like some type of handicapper on there, so another handicapper or something like that on there. So I was like, it is what it is. I'll go on the show. I don't care. I'll go on there just to talk the truth about, when it comes to sports betting and stuff. So I agree to it. Days go by. They give me the time frame of when we're going to do the show and stuff like that. Then they ask, they're like, could we get a little promo video of you, so we can look further into, what you're about, what Linemaker Sports is about and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, no doubt. So we send over like a nice little promo thing, of what the company is about and everything like that, and how we help people, learn sports betting and stuff like that. And after we sent that over, it was a little weird because after we sent that over and they kind of looked deeper into the company and looked deeper into like what we do and like that we're actually like real. We're not like those handicappers, that just throw stupid stuff out there. Like we're real and we really help people, it kind of got a little weird from there. So when that happened, it came back to the producer reached back out. The producer was like, okay, well, I hate to tell you this, but we're not going to be able to pay for your flight out there because they're giving me some problem with that. So I was like, yeah, that ain't a big deal. I was like, not a big deal. I'll find a way out there. We'll get out there. So I was like, it's not a big deal. So he's like, okay, if you can still come through, that would be fine. So of course I agree to that. I'm like, there's no problem with that. Then a couple days later, I get another message back, and it's like, well, now we're not going to be able to do the hotel for you either. So I kind of got a feeling like it was like they were trying to give me some pushback after they looked further into like that, like I was real, like I really teach people on how to actually make money doing this. Like I'm not just like some person out there that's throwing out big bets and like acting stupid and stuff like that. Like I'm actually teaching people that stuff. So I felt like I was getting some pushback on that. So then once I started getting a little bit of pushback on it, I was like, yeah, I was like, this is getting a little weird. I was like, it seems like they don't want me to be on the show now all of a sudden. So I straight up called the producer out. I was like, listen, I was like, if you don't want me to be on the show, just let me know. I was like, I won't come on the show. And then he's like, no. I definitely want you to be on the show. I want you to come out here. I want you to be a part of this stuff and everything like that. I was like, all right, I was like, that's fine. I was like, listen, I got no problem. I'll find my own way out there, put my own place, everything like that. I was like, I'll still come on the show. I'll do it all. I was like, it's no problem for me. He was like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So we end up going out there. All right, me and a couple of the guys on the team, we go out there. And the experience, is actually pretty cool because you go into Paramount Studios. You get to go through there, the gate at Paramount. You had to take COVID tests. You had to do all that stuff and everything like that. So once we get to like the dressing room and stuff like that, they make you sign a bunch of papers and stuff that you're not gonna, do stuff or use certain footage or whatnot. So we get to all doing all that. We get ready to go on the show. They kind of briefed me of what the show is about. Like to this point, they didn't even tell me really what the show was actually about. So I'm just sitting there like, all right, I guess I'm gonna wing this going out there. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I'll just wing it. So the guy comes in, one of the guys come in the room and they kind of brief me a little bit, like right before the show's gonna start. They brief me a little bit on what it's about. So they're like, oh, we're gonna bring this one guy on. He's like a handicapper. We're gonna have another guy come in through Zoom who does like a podcast or something like that. Then we're gonna have two guys that have gambling problems come on. So I was like, all right, I see, I see where this is going. I was like, I even asked the guy, I'm like, are these guys real like pro bettors, pro sports bettors? Like, what do you know about them? And he was like, well, they claim to be. And of course, in my head, I roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, here we go. I was like, who are they gonna put out there? I was like, who are they gonna, try to put in the front of everything? So anyway, we go about everything. We're about to get ready to go on the show. They pull us out to the studio. Studio is like a circular studio. You got the audience in there. The audience was like 60 people, I would think. There was about 60 people in there. They had the chair up front with Dr. Phil chair and stuff like that. Then they had, the people that were going to be on to talk and stuff like that. Little weird. I'm not going to lie. This whole thing was a little weird going out. So I go out. I sit down in the chair. I'm looking around. These people that are in the audience, like, they don't even look like they're real. Like, they just felt weird. Like, nobody was talking to each other. Of all these people, they're not talking to each other. They're not really conversating much. They're all just, like, sitting there. So I was like, this is a little bit weird. I was like, I felt like me and maybe the other guys that were on were, like, the only people that were, like, really real there. It was just a weird experience. So anyway, we're sitting there. They're like, all right, we're going to get the show going. We're going to get started and stuff like that. So I'm talking to the one guy that they're bringing on. He was actually a pretty cool kid, to be honest with you. He was a cool dude. He really was. He was a cool dude, but he wasn't a professional sports bettor. Like, I could tell right off the bat. I knew it wasn't. And he told me that he worked for a sports book. So he told me he worked for PointsBet. So I was like, oh, I know he's not a professional, sports bettor when it comes to that aspect of it. So I was like, all right. And I was thinking in my head, like, who are they going to bring over Zoom? Like, what is this going to be about? Is this show going to be like they're going to try to dog out sports betting? Or are they going to actually try to help somebody that has a problem when it comes to it? So, it was a bit weird right at that moment. It was a bit weird. So I was thinking in my head, I'm like, I bet you they're going to try to make this episode into something where they're dogging out sports betting and then they're pulling like kind of fake professional handicappers and throwing them on and then dogging them out. So I'm like, all right, this is what it's going to be. They're going to try to do this. And I was like, I'm ready for it because I'm like, whatever they throw at me, I'm 100% real. So there ain't no fake with me. So I was like, whatever they throw at me, I'm going to be able to, I'll get it, I got rebuttals for days for anything that they got to say about sports betting. So we get the show going, and Dr. Phil comes out, and I tell you, like, he's in bad shape. He really is. It wasn't what I expected. I thought like a big Dr. Phil, like big healthy guy was coming out, and he came out and was like he needed help walking. He needed help sitting down. He didn't like pay any attention to any of the people that were going to be on the show talking. Like, he didn't even look at me in the eye. The other guys, he didn't really pay too much attention to. Didn't really look at them. He just sat down. They helped him sit down in his chair. Then they come and bring him like his little pamphlet of what the show's going to be about, I guess. He looks at that and is just looking at the teleprompter. He doesn't really pay attention to anybody else. So, a little bit weird on that end too. I'm like, I've never really been a part of something like this before, so I was like, this is just weird. I was like, it feels like, everything is like fake. I feel like everything is fake. I was like, this is just super weird. So he sits down, he gets ready to do the intro to the show and whatnot, starts talking. So then they bring the one guy that was next to me. They bring him up to talk with Dr. Phil. So they go like, mano-a-mano looking at each other. So they start talking, and then Dr. Phil quizzes him and is like, well, so you go out, and they did a little promo for the kid too, like on the TV of like him doing TikToks and stuff like that. And then it didn't make him look too good. It made him look like one of those handicappers that like, yells out, buy this or win this and when you can win a play doing this and stuff like that. They didn't make him look good. So I was like, all right, here we go. I was like, so they pull him up on the stage. They start talking to him. Dr. Phil's talking to him about, oh, like, what do you do with sports betting? Like, how do you, do stuff? And he's like, I post pics and stuff on TikTok and I do stuff like that. And again, this kid was like pretty cool, all right? He was a cool kid. Like, I'm not dogging him out at all. He was a very cool kid, but wasn't a professional sports bettor. So he's sitting there talking to him, and Dr. Phil goes to him. He goes, "So I got a question. How much money have you made in sports betting?" And the kid goes, "I made about $25,000 in the last 2 years in sports betting." So Dr. Phil immediately goes and is like, "That's a poverty wage. Nobody could live off of that type of money. So obviously you can't do this for a living, right?" So puts the kid on the spot right away. All right. So puts the kid on the spot. Kid's kind of like, yeah, I guess. He's like, "I just do it for fun." Kind of puts him on the spot with that. And of course, he tried to target like minorities. He tried to get the minority aspect of it because, he was like, "Oh, they're targeting." That's what the sports betting industry is doing. They're targeting minorities. So that's why, they brought him up center stage with Dr. Phil because he was a minority. They're like, "Oh, they're targeting him." And look, he's only been able to make $24,000 in 2 years. It's poverty wage. Nobody could live off of that. That's not possible. So after they kind of like dog him out, they bring out over Zoom. They bring out some podcaster. So they make him look completely stupid on his promo. His promo was like they pulled like videos of him saying like, "I got big winners, winners, winners," and stuff like that, and they made him look pretty dumb, to be honest. They made him look stupid. And they put his promo up. And then they bring him on via Zoom. So he's on Zoom. He starts talking about what he does in podcasts. He gives free picks and stuff like that or whatnot. Does, certain things in the podcast world or something like that. Again, not a professional sports bettor. This guy's not a professional sports bettor either. So Dr. Phil brings him on, just starts, pretty much talking shit to him as well about the sports betting industry, and is like, "Well, you just have a podcast that you branch out, that you try to help people with stuff, but your information, it just could be just up in the air. Nobody really knows." So kind of dogging him out. So at this same time, they're like, "Let's bring out the guy that has a gambling problem." So this guy that has a gambling problem is supposed to be out on stage. All of a sudden, last second, he's got COVID or something. So now he has to come in via Zoom as well. So they bring him on. And immediately the guy goes and tells his story. The guy's like, "Listen, I've lost a couple $100,000, and I've stolen money from my wife, and my wife is like supporting me because of my gambling problem and stuff like that." And totally like can understand like that the guy probably did have an actual gambling problem. And, he's talking about his gambling problem. Dr. Phil like immediately goes for, "Well, don't you feel bad that your wife is supporting you? Like that's insane that your wife has to support you for you to be able to bet on sports and stuff like that. Don't you see that that's a problem?" And of course the guy's like, "Yeah, that's a problem, but there's no help whatsoever going on here." So like this guy's got a gambling problem, but there's no help going into that. None at all. Nobody's helping this guy at all. So I'm like sitting there like, what is going on here? I'm like, they bring these two guys on, they sit there and dog them out. Then they bring a guy with a gambling problem. They give him no help, and then like Dr. Phil's just calling him out basically and saying like, "I can't believe you have a gambling problem and you do this and your wife's supporting you and stuff like that." And I'm sitting there like, what the hell is going on here? I'm like, do I just butt in and just like cut these people off and be like, "Yo, what is going on here? Like, are we here to help people or what?" So I'm kind of like up in the air. I'm like, what do I do here? So next thing, they bring a guy out on stage. All right, older gentleman. They bring him out on stage. And he's supposed to have like a gambling problem where he's lost like 500 grand. He's been gambling since he was 18. He can never figure out a way to win. And he's an advocate for not gambling now. So he's against gambling. The guy's totally against gambling. He's not one for it no more. He's gave it up. All right, supposedly he's gave it up. So they bring him out on the stage, and Dr. Phil's talking to him. They're having like little conversations about his gambling problem and stuff like that, of how it developed and everything like that. And once again, not helping him. The guy that had the gambling problem that the wife was pretty much supporting is like up in the corner. Nobody's even paying attention to him. Nobody's even paying attention to the guy anymore. He's just up in the corner like on Zoom. And they just kind of like shunned him off a little bit. And he was just sitting there like on Zoom. So they don't talk to him too much. Then Dr. Phil goes on to how it's predatory and gambling is predatory and sports betting is predatory and how easy it is to whip out your phone and they're targeting the minorities and all this stuff, like trying to put sports betting down. So when we're getting to this point, I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is why they didn't want me to come in here. I was like, because I'm actually doing what the opposite of what they're talking about. So I'm like definitely on the other side of this. So I'm like, whenever I get to chime in, obviously I'm going to be going against off of what he's saying. I'm not going to be agreeing with him. So anyway, they're talking amongst all these guys. Like the guy in the corner on Zoom, they left him out. The guy the podcaster, he was in the side too, just like looking over everything, talking about nonsense again. Dr. Phil's talking to the guy that has a gambling problem that's on the stage, chiming in with the other kid a little bit, trying to get him to conversate a little bit, but the kid can't say too much because he kind of like was just dogging him out and saying that like, oh, you just give picks and you don't do this like at a level where you could actually make money. So then they go from that to they bring another person on Zoom, which is some lady that wrote a book on slot machine gambling or something like that, on how it targets people and how like slot machines and stuff. Like, doesn't even have nothing to do with sports betting. Like, she comes on, she's talking about slot machines and how casinos, like, attract people and stuff like that, and how easy it is to whip out your phone and put out a bet in and all this stuff. And to be honest with you, the stuff she was talking about and, like, with the book that she wrote had nothing to do with really sports betting. So I'm like, this is a little weird. It doesn't really have nothing to do with sports betting aspect. More talking about the casinos and stuff like that on how they attract people. But, it is what it is. So then this is about 15 minutes in. So after about 15 minutes, they're like, all right, we're going to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Frank. And he's somebody that claims, that's how they say it, he's someone that claims that he can teach people how to do this and actually make money doing it. So, of course, I'm sitting there. I'm like, all right, I'm revved up. I'm like, let's get this going. I'm ready to talk about this. I'm ready to get this, get this going, because I'm like, they're feeding pretty much a bunch of bull all around here. And they're like trying to be against sports betting and against all this, which I guarantee you, off topic, guarantee you Dr. Phil probably put bets in on the Super Bowl a couple days ago. So, I can guarantee you that shit happened, all right? So, anyway, we get back, commercial break. He's like, all right, let's go to Frank. So, we go to me. I'm sitting there. He's like, so you claim that you can help people do this, right? And you could do this at a certain level. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I could teach people exactly how to make $50,000 to $60,000 a year betting on sports. And it's proven because I've did it. I was like, and what he says to me, and he's like, well, I understand that. He goes, and you seem like a very bright young man. He goes, but what about the time that it takes to be able to do stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, it takes some time. I was like, but it doesn't take that much time to be able to learn how to do something like this. So then he rebuttals by saying, I'm interested to see if this is going to be cut out or not, because he rebuttals by saying, I don't know if the time putting in is worth making $50,000 to $60,000 a year doing it. So I'm like throwing back there for a second. He kind of caught me off guard, because I'm like, you probably got people in your studio right now that you're paying $50,000 to $60,000 that they're putting in work hours. You're saying that betting on sports and making that amount of money is not worth putting the time into it. So in my head, I'm kind of shocked, because I'm like, did this guy really just say that to me? I'm like, I don't really know what to say. I was like, I was kind of like caught off guard. And I was like, well, if that's the way that you see it, I mean, if you see that not putting time into it, making $50,000, $60,000 not worth it, then that's what you think. I was like, but, there's other people that think that. So he kind of shuns that off a little bit when I say that. He kind of just shuns it off, doesn't say much about it. Then we go back to, I kind of translate to the guy that has a gambling problem on the stage. Because I'm like, here we go again. Nobody's helping anybody here. I was like, these guys got gambling problems, but nobody has said anything to help these guys with gambling problems. So I addressed the guy with the gambling problem that's on the stage. I said to him, I was like, what made you develop the problem like after so many years of just continuously gambling? Why all of a sudden, now did you just decide to cut it off? What led to the steps of that? Trying to give him some helpful maybe information about that. So he goes and starts talking about like the feeling, and he just loved the feeling and the rush and everything like that, which I get. A lot of people have that problem when it comes to gambling and the rush and everything like that. And that's where you develop the gambling problem. I get that. So he starts speaking amongst all that stuff and everything like that. So I'm trying to kind of connect with him, because I want to help him out a little bit, because there ain't nobody else here helping him out, or the guy in the corner that his wife's supporting him, like nobody helped him out either. So I'm like, I thought that what this show is about is helping the guys that have the gambling problems. So I'm like, well, there's certain things that you could do that could, you could still be able to gamble. You could still do that. You could just do it. You have to do it in moderation. You have to do it a certain way, and you have to master your mind, because your mindset is what controls everything. If you master your mind, you're not going to develop those problems. So I tried to help him out that. Immediately, I ended up getting cut off by Dr. Phil saying like, all right, guys, well, we're going to have to probably wrap this up here. And I don't know if we're going to really be able to keep going here. We're going to have to translate to something else. So like, I immediately get cut off, like trying to help the guy. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is exactly why they were trying to push me, hit the brakes for me to come on the show, because they were like, he was, somebody said in the comments, the agenda. I wasn't there for the, on the same length of the wave level that they wanted that show to go. I was kind of the opposite a little bit, because they wanted it to be like, sports betting's bad. It's not something that could be possible, and then they put me on there, and then they're like, oh, well, this guy's claiming he can make, the median wage in America in sports betting. So it kind of didn't make sense for them to have me on there. So that's pretty much how it went. And the funny thing is that this guy that got on the stage, I'm telling you right now, the guy that got on the stage that had the gambling problem, that said he was an advocate against sports betting, right after the show, when we concluded, they pulled me backstage with him and then the one kid that works for PointsBet. They brought us backstage to do the debriefing, and then we're going to leave and stuff like that, go to our dressing rooms and everything. He's back there and he's asking me about, he's asking me about the sports. He's like, you really can actually win in sports betting? Like, you could really do this? And I was like, yeah, you could really do this. I was like, check out my channel and stuff. I was like, I do this all the time. I teach people all the time how to do this. I was like, you can do this. I was like, you just got to master your mindset that comes with it. You got to master the mindset that's behind gambling or sports betting, any of it. You got to master the mindset that's with it. And so then he's interested in my stuff after that. And I'm like, I thought this guy was an advocate against gambling all of a sudden. But now all of a sudden this guy's asking me questions. So I was like, I was just a little thrown off by a lot of the stuff that happened here. And I wanted to come on live here on YouTube. I wanted to share with you guys the experience because, you guys might not even see it on TV. I don't even know really where it's aired. They didn't tell me where it's going to be aired at, what time. They just said what date. So, I wanted you to hear from me exactly what is going to, transpire and how it went compared to what they're going to show maybe on TV, which I don't even know yet. So we'll see. Once it is aired, I'm going to put it in the comment section, the link, so that way you guys can watch it and kind of get a kick out of it and see how that works as well. But, yeah, that's just pretty much, that's how it went, and I wanted everybody to kind of see that, the Hollywood stuff, I don't know, it's a little weird how it transpires and how they do things, and I think that, I don't know if they're, trying to, throw an agenda out there, the gambling is bad, sports betting is bad, you can't do this. Everything is a risk, and that's why, I wanted to actually talk to Dr. Phil, one-on-one, and really speak to him, not even with the cameras, and just be everything is a risk, man. Come on now, anything could be, a risk. Anything. You could be in the stock market, that's a risk. In the crypto game, that's a risk. Starting your own business, that's a risk. Everything is a risk. So, there's nothing that's a safe bet, all right? There's no safe bets. Anything is a risk. You can go to your job and you can end up getting fired. So, that's the, that's just the thing on it. That's just how it all transpired, guys. But thanks everybody in the comments and stuff that, you guys threw in the comments and everything like that. I appreciate it. But it was a funny thing to see and funny thing to be a part of. All right, but like I said, I will put it in the link. I'll put the link in the comment section so that way you guys can see it if you can't find it on TV. Because I was on the show, and to be honest with you, I don't even know where to watch it at. I was on the show. I don't even know where to. I don't even know where to find it at. But so once I get a hold of it, I'll put it in the comment section. That way you guys can watch it too. You can get a kick out of it. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that they were trying to kind of throw sports betting under the bus a little bit and try to be like, this is something you can't do. You can't make money doing this, man. There's no way you can make money doing this. But in the reality is that if it's done the right way, same thing with crypto, same thing with the stock market, same thing with anything. If it's done the right way and you have the right mindset that goes with it, you can actually achieve it. You can actually make something of yourself with doing it. All right, it goes with anything, guys. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. Trust me, because I'm doing this year in and year out. Don't let anybody get in your heads. Nobody in the media tell you that this stuff is not possible, that you just can't do it. Do not let people throw that in your minds, because I'm telling you right now, it is 100% possible for you to be able to go on, bet on sports, make money doing it, have fun doing it, and do it either as a side income or, if you don't have that much, in bills to pay, it could be a main income as well. So don't let nobody tell you that stuff, all right? I just wanted to come on. I wanted to, tell everybody the real story. Thanks, everybody, for joining me on this. Like I said, comment section, I'm going to put the link once it's posted. You guys can watch it. Then in the comments, you guys tell me what you think after you guys watch the episode and see exactly what you think transpired compared to what the story is that I told you. All right, guys, as always, I'm Frank with Linemaker Sports. I'll see everybody in the next video. Till then, I'm out.